Ybor City, as the restored buildings and new buildings that he was putting up would be named after Cuban patriots that fought in the Cuban War of Independence from Spain. Ybor City was known as the cradle of the Cuban independence. That was back in the 1890s. So the concept that he has in naming these buildings with patriots of the War of the Independence, to me, it's something new that's being done in Ybor City. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Ariel Quintela.
Thank you, Raphael. I'm honored to be speaking here to this dynamic club, which has done so much for this community, especially Ybor City. You're about to celebrate your 70th birthday. In September 1948, the Rotary Club was chartered, and its first president was famous historian Tony Pizzo. Tony Pizzo also went on to be the first mayor. And one of his famous quotes was, "There's 24 hours in a day. 8 hours to work, 8 hours to sleep, and what you did with the remaining 8 is where you ended up in life." Ybor City and Cuba are forever linked. We have more historical markers, busts, and statues of Jose Marti here in Tampa than any of our nation's own heroes like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Thanks to the Ybor Rotary Club, these historical markers are up today. And thank you also for the genius of Tony Pizzo. So in order to understand our future, we must acknowledge and embrace our past. Ybor was known for being the cigar capital of the world, thanks to Vicente Martinez Ybor. Different cultures, like the Italians, the Cubans, the Spaniards, and the Jews, all migrated here to live a better life. You could walk down 7th Avenue and smell the Cuban coffee roasting. So our belief is, construction and construction materials and construction projects can be built by anyone. The history and the essence of what this great Ybor City represented wouldn't be the same without honoring it. Construction projects are a weave of fabric, culture, architecture, but it must tell the story of our plight. We must preserve and cherish it. And if we don't bring back our history for our next generation, it will be forgotten. So our concept is, I think we all know Freddie Pacheco. And Freddie Pacheco would paint these beautiful paintings, bright colors, and of characters, of places, the trolley, and of life here in Ybor City. I purchased a painting from him one time and I asked, Freddie, who are these people? And he was able to name every single one of these characters in this painting. And he said, this person here I knew, I grew up with him. And so he went through the whole painting. And if there's a parallel to what my belief is here for Ybor, we want to paint Ybor City with naming buildings after not only the Cuban patriots who helped Cuba in its fight for freedom, but also so many other people that are heroes and that were heroes and that should be honored. So so by naming these buildings after these special patriots, I think that we'll be able to see them come to life with history. So our goal and dream is not only to build and develop Ybor City. For me, it's personal. I pinch myself every day knowing that I'm part of this dream. It's exciting, working on plans, ideas, and planning and looking into the future. Our goal here is not just to build and sell. Our goal here is to build, become part of society, and continue building for many years to create a great city. We want to be part of the community and also explain and showcase the revolution that helped Cuba become free from Spain. Imagine Vicente Martinez Ybor, when he arrived, it was only marshlands. And in 10 short years, he built houses for his employees, or encouraged so many other businesses and tobacco contemporaries to relocate their factories here, build shops, stores, and he did that in only 10 years. So imagine what we can do in the next 10 years. So our goal is just to continue building. We've started with an array of buildings already. We believe with what's going on in this area around us, Channel Side, what Jeff Finnick is doing, the Heights, we're going to see a critical mass come to fruition. And we believe here we are located in the center of all that activity. What they're trying to do and what they're actually attempting and fulfilling is just bringing more people to this area, more knowledge to this area. Ybor will have thousands of apartments and offices, mixed-use developments, physicians, dentists. 22nd and 21st will be main thoroughfares. The streets will be bustling with people, driverless cars, all while preserving, our sense of being. So I'll start talking a little about our journey here. I'm going to talk about a 2-block radius here between Lucio Parkway and 14th. So we can't start talking about this without talking about Vicente Martinez Ybor. He left Spain for Cuba as a young child. By the time he was in his 20s, he had already established his name as the largest producer of cigars in Cuba. In the middle of the 10-year war that was being fought, he fled Cuba and settled in Key West, and eventually migrated here to Tampa. Like we all know, in 1886, he built a factory known as El Principal de Gales. And not long after that, he started building homes for his employees. And at the same time, he started buildings across the street, a building that we have renovated called the Don Vicente. There, he and his partner, Eduardo Mangrada, had their development offices and a photography studio on the 2nd floor. Vicente Martinez's first building was located on the corner of 13th and 7th. It was a framed 2-story building that was originally used to store tobacco. After his factory was built, he gave that building to his workers, and they called it a Liceo Cubano, a meeting place. On the first floor, there were small shops where you could imagine they would be playing dominoes and cards and smoking cigars. And on the 2nd floor, there was a theater. And that theater would invite talent from Cuba. They would play music, and it was basically a place where you would hear music playing in the evening. There was a club that would meet there, and the president, Nestor Carpenet, wrote and invited Jose Marti to speak. They had read about his great orating skills, his publishings, and so many books that he had written, and he immediately responded yes. When he arrived, the next morning, he went over and met Martinez Ybor. Went to his office, and he was led to wait for Mr. Martinez Ybor. After that meeting, the first meeting, he wrote in the newspaper in New York, La Patria, that he was so impressed with Mr. Martinez because as he sat, an employee sat with him and sat in Mr. Martinez's chair. So when Mr. Martinez arrived, he went to stand up. The employee, Mr. Martinez, said, "No, please sit in my chair." And that was very much left an impression on Jose Marti about Martinez Ybor. We have looked to see if there was any more meetings in the history books about the relationship that they had after that, and there really wasn't much that we found. And I know Rodney and I, we worked on that, looking for more information on their relationship. But that evening, Jose Marti spoke to the group, and he said 2 speeches at the first night, con todos y para el bien de todos, which meant for all and the good of all. And the following evening, his speech was called Los Pinos Nuevos. These 2 speeches not only defined the unity and the need for unity amongst the Cubans, but it defined the revolution that was about to take place. You could already see that the Liceo Cubano on the corner of 13th and 7th was a place where a revolution of unity of Cubans from Key West to New York were united. How can we not tell this story? When you're in that vicinity, take the time to read the historical marker that Tony Pizzo and his Civic Club financed on 7th and 13th. That's why naming these buildings after these heroes is of such importance. A few names that I'm going to speak about were chosen because of their close ties to Jose Marti. He is surrounded by his closest allies on these four corners. The first building that we're honoring is in the name of Jose Marti, which is on the corner of Lucio Parkway and 7th Avenue. That's going to be a grand building of 127 apartments. It's going to have about 8,000 square feet of commercial. It's going to be built block. We're going to have the courtyards all bricked, a statue of Jose Marti in the back. And we're here, we're committed for long term. And so everything we're building is out of block, full brick, the quality of construction that's going to last a test of time. So that building will start in the next few months, and it will be honoring Jose Marti. Next to that, we are developing and renovating the building on the corner of 13th and 7th, and that's where the Eliseo Cubano was. That one we're honoring Fernando Figueredo Socorras. And he was Jose Marti's closest confidant here in Tampa. He was one of the first Cuban-American state legislators in the House of Representatives and became the first mayor of West Tampa. The order of uprising was written in New York and secretly signed by Jose Marti and other leaders in the Cuban Revolutionary Party. It was delivered to Tampa and given to Fernando Figueredo here in West Tampa. The cigar from there was taken to Cuba and placed in the hands of Juan Gualberto Gomez. He takes that order to the generals to liberate, and the war begins in Cuba. So there's a historical marker in front of West Tampa Library on the corner of Union and Main that depicts and discusses that order of uprising. And who was Juan Gualberto Gomez? Juan Gualberto Gomez was Jose Marti's most trusted confidant. Because of that letter of uprising, the Marti War of 1895, which ultimately led into the Cuban independence on May 20th, 1902. Juan Gualberto Gomez was an Afro-Cuban that was born to slave parents. His mother worked tirelessly to save money in order to buy his freedom at birth. He was educated in French, history, and founder of the newspaper La Fraternidad. Juan Gualberto was dedicated to the advocate for the abolition of slavery and for equality among men. A fighter for the Cuban independence, his loyalty and friendship to Jose Marti was paramount. Because of his part, the letter of uprising was given to the generals in Cuba, and the war started simultaneously. The building bearing his name will be a 4-story office building with a restaurant on the first floor and a rooftop bar overlooking Central Ybor. So what we're trying to do is paint a picture of Jose Marti's closest allies on these 4 corners, and by honoring them. And we're going to have plaques on the buildings. We're going to have where our goal is where you can put your phone up to it and hear more of the history of these great people. We're also honoring Paulina Pedroso on the next corner. And she was also very intricate in his life. She took care of him with Dr. Barbarossa when he was poisoned in one of his visits to Tampa. She was outspoken and a believer in freedom. She and her husband, they were Afro-Cubans at a time when segregation and Jim Crow were taking hold, especially here in the South. And yet she was a businesswoman, property owner, well-respected, a leader. Shall I say more? The property where she lived was donated to Cuba in 1956 and is located at the location of the Jose Marti Park. Please see the historical markers in front of the Cuban club and the one in the Jose Marti Park, and both were written by Tony Pizzo. We are now also in the stages of completing the renovation of the Oliva Cigar Factory. That cigar factory was built in the 1880s, and it was formerly called the Monet Cigar Factory. During construction, it leans 13 to 16 inches. And believe me, I slept in the fetal position for a few nights. Because the building is 200 foot long, 50 foot wide, and 50 foot tall. And you just scratch your head. So how do you bring this monster back to being straight? And we got that done. And today that building is just beautiful. We will have it completed within the next 60 days. We've already rented several of the units, and there seems to be good interest in that building. The floors, everything we found in that building the original balusters, the original baseboards, the original door casings, and so we had them copied exactly. So what you'll see is materials of today, but exactly from the original building, including the beadboard on the wall. Its windows are 9'4" by 3 foot, so each apartment has 3 or 4 of these gigantic, beautiful windows. And the floor came out of a building that was also built in the 1880s. That was a big factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we bought all the floor from it and had it shipped down and installed in this building. So that corner that we're talking about will be honoring Jose Marti, Socarras, Juan Guabeto Gomez, and Paulina Pedroso. And for us, it's the beginning. I mean, our commitment to Ybor is long term. We believe that what we're trying to attract is a type of tourism that's in the need of searching for our history. And just in the Tampa Bay area alone, there's 120,000 Cubans, and in Miami, there's over 1 million. We're getting all sorts of emails and interest from people just wanting to come here to Ybor City to learn more about our history. Of course, there's so many more other people to honor. There's an array of Italians and Spaniards and just all forms of all cultures of life that live here, that there's plenty of buildings to be honoring all of them. So what I dream is of Ybor City to be a place of culture, of word tourism, a place where people who are interested in history will want to visit, a place where the world knows of our plight, a place you can walk up to any of the buildings and learn about its history through a phone app. My dream is to restore the Jose Marti Park to allow visitors from all over the world to learn about his life. It's time to make it a place that makes us all proud. I cannot begin to thank my friend Rafael Ybor. He is my hero, friend, and true and tireless advocate for Ybor history. And if you would please stand and give him a round warm of applause. He's the real deal. Does everyone know EJ?
Yes.
So I went to EJ for advice. I said, EJ, I mean, I'm not a public speaker. What are your thoughts? I mean, what do you think I should do? He goes, well, you need to make sure that you look at the crowd from the left to the right and make sure everyone has your eye contact. So, did I do that?
Yes.
Right. He also said, keep it short. Keep it short and precise, that's what I do. And the last thing he did was he says, but whatever you do, do not bore them. No? So did I bore you?
No.
Beautiful. My gratitude, my gratitude to the Ybor City Rotary Club. It's an honor to be invited to speak. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And just the fact that we could give you a little more about our perspective and our ideas here in Tampa is a privilege.